Hi everyone, SilverContrail here, part of Team Drive Trigger, and doing the deck development video today for Dragunity. So Dragunity is a really cool archetype. It's one that I've been playing basically non-stop for about a year now. It's been my main deck, and I'm really enjoying it. That said, this format offers some new challenges, a little bit more help towards making the deck good. Uh, Overall, my build really hasn't changed from before. A couple new card choices, some extra deck choices change, and definitely how I play the deck is a little bit different. But anyways, yeah, the whole main deck really hasn't changed too much. There's some things that I'm definitely toying around with right now to see whether or not they're worthwhile. The first things I want to talk about actually. So I'm still running the triple ducks, triple legionnaire, and the single Actus, and then the three phalanxes. Again, three phalanxes and the single Actus. This has been really consistent for me. I've almost never had an issue with not having one of them around, and it's certainly, these cards are still very good cards of continents. They're going to still resolve quite often. I have thought about maybe trying to bump up cards of continents to 3, maybe running a third Actus, but it really hasn't come to that at all. And as usual, I'm also running the double Mistiltian. The Mistiltian has gone in basically because Veiler is everywhere, because Phoenix Chain is everywhere, and because it does some really cool stuff with Xyz summons. Now, once again, Maxx has become a prevalent card, and that's an issue for me. Not something I want to see at all, but it's something I have to deal with. For right now, Mistiltian is doing pretty good in my local area, but if my opponent's siding in game 2, either DD Crows or Maxx against me because they find that their Veilers are losing out to Mistiltian, that's a problem, a really big problem, and it's something I definitely need to correct. So Mistiltian may go the way of the dodo here pretty quickly. I don't know. If I do side out Mistiltians, I'll side out Red Eyes probably as well. At that point, I don't feel that it's worthwhile running the Autumn Loop, at least until Gusto Griff comes up. So Mistiltian, yeah, it's good against basically everything that isn't a Veiler, or isn't a Maxx, because you definitely don't want to play into Maxx ever, if you can avoid it. But there's not a whole lot you can do about that. It's either running main deck Doom Caliber Knights or this. So summoning into Maxx sucks, but there are definitely things you can do, and you can definitely turtle up with this deck. If they play their Maxx, then you have your Phoenix Chain set, and sometimes you can survive into the next turn, sometimes you can't. A lot of times you just have to play as though they don't have a Maxx in their hand. Definitely, I mean, the last thing I'll say about that is, when I saw Maxx come out, my first thought was, this is the card that's going to kill Dragunity. So unfortunately, as long as it's being main decked, I'm in a lot of trouble. Double Zephyros, once again, definitely. People in the OCG are running 3 of them. That's a little too much for me. Otherwise, I might run 3 if I was running a single Gale. But I don't really see the purpose. Another card that I'm not running here is Foolish Burial. I get a lot of people saying that Foolish is really, really good because you can dump your Tuner if you don't have one, or you can dump your Zephyros. The thing that bugs me about Foolish is that it's a -1. And in this deck, you just can't afford minuses. You're always going to have really low hands because you're committing everything to the field, and a lot of times you're going to lose a lot of cards to card effects. So minuses are really, really bad. I find that this is pretty consistent all the same, and I tend to open up with pretty good hands, which I like. It seems to work pretty well. So the double Zephyros I think is going to stick around for a bit. And I might switch something out. I'm looking at things like Cyber Dragon and some other cards, once again, just pretty much because I hate Ryo, and Zephyros doesn't really do anything against Ryo. Gale does though, so I don't know. Maybe have like one Zephyros, one Gale down the road. That's something to look at. Double Veiler. Veiler isn't a huge issue in this deck, and I'm also running the double Phoenix Chain. Could I side another Veiler out and put in another Phoenix Chain? Certainly. I really like Phoenix Chain in this deck. It's definitely one of the best cards in here. But Veiler is really good in the first turn. Phoenix Chain is good every other turn after that. And it also helps me do things like, negate a Barkion and still have the Phoenix Chain. Valor being just a really good card, but unfortunately it is kind of a painful minus, and it's not really as long lasting as something like Chain is, but having both of them gives me some versatility, not knowing, my opponent doesn't really know what to expect if I've got the Valor or if I've got the Phoenix Chain, and I like that kind of mix up. Maybe going down to 1, I don't know, maybe going up to 3. These tend to fluctuate quite a bit depending on the format, depending on what I'm playing against. And lastly, Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon. This obviously is in here for playing the Autumn loop. Basically, you get your Autumn out, you bring out your Red Eyes, and you go from there. On its own, when you draw it, sometimes it can be a pain, sometimes it's not. It's whatever. Certainly you can do things like, if you summon ducks and you bring out your Phalanx and they go Maxx, you can drop a Red Eyes instead and have your 2800 beater and not have to synchro summon, special summon like 3 more times to get something with that much attack. And that's definitely an issue where they drop Maxx, but you need to get over something or you're going to lose. You can just play the Red Eyes. They'll get an extra draw, but on the other hand, they might not be able to do anything next turn, assuming you have a good back row to stop them. But yeah, this extra draws is always bad, but it's one way maybe you can survive a Maxx. For the spells, running the triple ravine, triple terraforming, pretty standard stuff. Double cards of consonants I already talked about, and then double typhoon, maybe going to 3 typhoon, maybe. I like the side of the 3rd typhoon. A lot of decks are still only running the very few back rows, and I just hate having typhoons in my back rows when my opponent's just playing nothing back there. And then Reborn, Dark Hole, excuse me, and then Pot of Avarice. Avarice shifts around a little bit. It's, I used to run double Avarice, but the one Avarice, I don't know. I mean, if you draw in the early game, you're kind of screwed because it's either going to sit in your hand or you're going to dump it, and then you're never going to draw it again. And that's a pain because sometimes you will go through all 3 duxes. A lot of people will say, well, sometimes, if you go through all 3 duxes and you have a 1 yet, then you're bad. But against certain decks, you're going to go through 3 duxes, especially if they're playing things like Maxx's and Valors and that sort of thing. That's why I always try to get my Legionnaires through first and then play the duxes, because I want those plays to go through more often. But Avarice mid to late game, it'll win you the game, hands down. I mean, it's so good in the mid to late game, but it's inconsistent at times. That's why I always, when people talk about banning it, I don't know. I think 1's really good. I think it's good at 1. One you're not seeing here is Heavy Storm, not in here at all. I haven't found a need for it, and my opponents don't know that I'm not running it. Well, at least those that I'm not friends with. Because my friends definitely know I don't run Heavy Storm. They set their whole back row against me, and they're like, thinking about how they don't have Heavy Storm. But that's not really a problem because Legionnaire Acus lets me get rid of their back rows for basically no cost. And I really like that play. In terms of traps, like I said, double Phoenix Chain, really, really, really good. Stardust, Phoenix Chain, just a really good combo. That alone is just really nice to be able to play. It's a really cheap play, it's a really common play, and it's really easy to get out on the field. Chain combined with Valor means that I can stop a lot of stuff that's going to be able to break my setup, get past Stardust, especially Phoenix Chain. Basically stops everything that would get past Stardust, which is really cool. The double Mirror Force, really good. Once again, this brings back the 2011 build of Dragunity where you had the Mirror Force set, or you would summon Stardust and you set 3 in your back row. And, you have like Deep Prison and Solemns and whatnot. Mirror Force brings that back a little bit. You've got the double Mirror Forces now behind your Stardust Dragon. Really good. They try to Typhoon it, you tribute your Stardust, and then they have to attack into your mirror. Good stuff all around. Of course, if they're trying to attack over you, you mirror them. Just, yeah, really good, really good. Solemn Judgment, really good card. Solemn Morning. These, expending a lot of life points is not very good in Dragunity, but you need the field. You need basically the summon control. You can't let them play whatever they want. You have to be able to stop things that would get past your synchros, and these are the cards that do it. And Solemn Judgment obviously is the Heavy Storm killer, because you can't let Heavy Storm resolve most of the time. So if they somehow get past your Stardust, you've got your Solemn face down still. There you go. But once again, like I said, if they do get past your Stardust and you activate Solemn Judgment and you go half your life points, then you probably just set yourself up to be OTK'd. So that's an issue, and that's again why running so much hate against their attacks. The double Phoenix Chain, the double Mirror Force. I'll go to Vanity's Emptiness first. I talked about this in my article on traps. Vanity's Emptiness is really, really good. Flip it up behind your Stardust Dragon. Really good play. Pretty solid. Especially in the mid to late game, or when like duel is really simplified. I mean, you can basically flip it and that'll shut off all their options in their hand. It's a really good card, to flip it when they're going, like, it's like when they attack and then you Mirror Force. And, they're attacking with their Light Pulsar on their Red Eyes, and you Mirror Force. They're still going to bring back their Red Eyes, attack into you, main phase 2, get back their Light Pulsar, and you basically didn't get anywhere. With this, you can have a Mirror Force and Vanity's Emptiness set. They attack, you Mirror Force, Light Pulsar activates, you flip this, they lose their play for the turn. It's really, really good. It stops a lot of stuff. And you can also flip it preemptively to stop things like super polymerization. Definitely this thing, even more so than Maxx, it's going to stop plays right there. They're not going to be able to do anything else. Ultimate Offering, really cool card. I like it. I've been testing it a little bit. Haven't really done a whole lot with it yet, but what I have, I've really enjoyed it. This was suggested on Pojo. Ultimate Offering, basically, if you open with it, there's a good chance you're going to win if they don't have like a Maxx in their hand. It's just really, really, really good, because you can do things like, say you have your Legionnaire and a Dux in your hand. You can go Legionnaire, Phalanx, Special, Hyper Librarian, and then summon your Dux alongside that, get Vajrayana, draw 1, get whatever, it's like Stardust or whatever, draw 2. Now you've got 2 cards. If you have like a third one, you can go summon, draw 2 more cards. Yeah, it's just really, really good. And certainly you can summon things like you have your in-hand Zephyros, and if you have in-hand Mistiltian, you're probably going to OTK or at least set up a field with multiple Synchros and a ton of cards in hand and set your huge back row. And yeah, basically, like I said, you will probably win with this card. Even if you're just doing things to summon 2 of your Dragunity cards, that's actually really good, and it's really solid play. Plus, it's basically going to stick around. So, if you really want to just, play a card or whatever, it's also really easy. I mean, you can definitely use this during their battle phase, especially when we're just starting off and they're attacking with weaker monsters, maybe like an Xyz or something. You can definitely use this effect and drop like a Zephyros in their face and, kind of sit there or set a Zephyros. And that's really easy to do. So that's my main deck. The side deck isn't really anything yet. I haven't really decided on what it is. The extra deck is almost identical. The switch out Orient Dragon is the replacement for Brionac. Losing Brionac is kind of an issue because that means my Zen main's out, my Ardeas out. Those cards are gone. It really makes me want to main Cyber Dragon, but losing those cards is kind of a pain. Everything else is identical. For the extra deck Xyz, and I've got the Heretic Dragon of Autumn. I personally run Force Focus because I don't have a bouncer. If I did have a bouncer, I'd run that instead. Pretty simple. But otherwise, not really going to change this build too much. I might play around with the Veilers, with the trap lineup, with maybe some of the spells, maybe a couple of the monsters. Mistiltion's definitely the biggest toss-up, whether it's going to be good next format or not. It's definitely up in the air. But once we get the next hidden arsenal, we get Gusto Griff. Once Griff comes out, totally new build is here. Basically, you discard Griff with Ravine, and then you can special summon a Gusto Windar Sage of Gusto, which is a level 6 with 2000 attack. Really, really, really good. I mean, you can definitely just like discard with Ravine, grab this guy, attack over a Ryle, but more likely you're going to be discarding with Ravine, adding your Dux, and then summon, and then make your 6, and then go off on that play. So, really cool. That's later. So, until next time, this is my Dragunity deck for this format, and open to suggestions and stuff, and this is SilverContrail, Team Drive Trigger, signing off.